I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're delving into the powerful insights of Dr. Josh McConkey. He is an author and a military leader who has penned a powerful book called Be the Weight Behind the Spear. This compelling book combines lessons from the battlefield and the emergency room to inspire a national dialogue on leadership and national security. Join us right now as Dr. McConkey shares how mentors and leaders can shape the future of America's youth. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Books to Life Marketing for helping us put him in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his profound book. The links are below this interview. Doctor, thank you so much for being our guest here today on Spotlight.
Logan, I really appreciate you taking the time to have me on today.
My pleasure. Let's begin by talking about the concept of the Spartan spear and how it relates to leadership and teamwork.
So when you look at, my leadership ethos is be the weight behind the spear. I've got a Latin inscription on the bottom of my military challenge coin. I've actually got a copy of it here. I can probably show you. So I've got, see how this shows up, but this is my personal coin that I hand to men and women in my squadron and throughout the military that's got a Latin inscription, gravitate hostum, and that's the gravity of the spear. So when you look at the spear, the tip of the spear in this country, the men and women that do pretty amazing things, our special operators in the military, our police, our firefighters, the people that really get things done. It's the weight behind the spear, the men and women that give them the confidence and have taught them, life lessons, coaches, teachers, and families. Those are the most important things in this country. It's our best resource.
Absolutely. What are some of the major threats you believe are currently undermining America's foundational principles?
Well, you've got the national security threats that we all know and hear about every day. The Chinese Communist Party, President Putin, and the Russians that are threatening, NATO and European security right now. And then you just see the things at home that interact, that cause problems in our families every single day. So, some of the social media that you've seen, I think this population, this generation of Americans, and I just talk about this younger generation. I command men and women 18 to 25 years old. As an emergency physician, I deal with a lot of youth and mental health illness in our emergency departments as well. And just some of the lack of family structure. So, people spend so much time on social media, they don't have the interactions. And I coined this the COVID generation. So this is the generation of Americans that were shut out of schools, they were shut out of their churches, they had no social interactions with other human beings other than over iPads and social media. And so they've lost a lot of the basic leadership skills, some accountability issues, and those types of things. That's really the whole point of writing this book, is for us, leadership in America right now, teachers, coaches, volunteers, families, to pick this generation up and teach them these things. We need to hand the keys to this country over to this generation in 15, 20 years. And right now they're not ready, and it's our job to give them those skills.
Tell us a little bit about the unique experiences that you share in your book.
So, as an emergency doctor, I see, the problems in this country at the very basic level. When they come into my emergency department, I see these young kids, these young Americans with anxiety, depression, and unfortunately a lot of suicide. And I've seen a large increase in that over the last 2 to 3 years, that I think has a large part due to just all the social changes that we saw during COVID. And then as a military commander, I see this generation that lacks some of the leadership, the accountability, the integrity, their coping skills. I think the social issues that you saw that were caused from COVID, they lack some of these basic coping mechanisms that I think you and I probably were instilled at a very young age. It just at that critical age, the social issues going on in this country, I think interrupted that, and this generation is struggling.
Almost mind-blowing to me. I grew up in the 60s and 70s. Depression, anxiety were just not talked about. Nobody really seemed to suffer from those maladies. Um, is it perhaps the latest generations are too coddled, that they're not told to suck it up and be a man or be a strong woman or something like that?
So I was raised in the late '70s, early '80s, and into the '90s. Those things have always existed. Mental health has always been forefront. As a military commander, and someone who served in combat, when you see what we have coined now as more PTSD type issues, those things were always there. We just didn't talk about them as much. Um, I think, it might not be the best thing I do think they've been coddled, certainly some. Everyone gets a trophy, everybody's a winner in this generation, and that's not real life. So they're definitely being coddled more. But the focus that we've had on mental health and mental illness is incredibly important. I definitely don't want them to just suck it up, but I think giving them the appropriate coping mechanisms is where we can best help this generation.
Well, you don't want them suffering in silence. You don't want
Yeah.
them overplaying their hand and playing the victim card. But there are
Mm.
people out there who have true needs, true problems, true issues that need to be addressed. And certainly you're helping address them. Let's give the folks at home an overview of your book.
So if you look at it, just boil it down to the basic principle, this is leadership for the COVID generation. So this is the generation that has, like I said, shut out of school, shut out of churches, didn't have interactions with other human beings for 2 or 3 year stretches at very critical moments. A lot of these, children, they missed out their high school graduation. And then some of them, even more recently, have missed out on their college graduation. These are just big, formative, life-changing moments that have been stolen from these children. And then when you couple that with just some of the social interactions that they're lacking, it the lack of coping mechanisms is crazy. So this book is giving them the tool. This is basically, I've diagnosed the disease. This book is the prescription on how we pick this generation up and teach them these leadership skills, accountability, overcoming obstacles. This is a it's been well received so far.
Let's drill down a little bit on the prescription. What is one thing that, you know, a young man or a young woman can do who's part of this COVID generation to be a leader, to be stronger, to be more in touch and more engaged?
For me, the number one, accountability, being responsible for your actions, no other excuses, that ultimate accountability. And I probably bring some of that from the special operations background, as medical director for pararescue, combat search and rescue. These men and women that work in special forces have ultimate accountability. Everything is their problem, everything is their responsibility. No one passes the buck. And when you have that type of mentality and you own every single problem, everything's your problem. There's no excuses, and it just lends itself towards ability to cope and take care of problems.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about your experiences as an emergency physician and military commander and how those roles have informed your views on national security.
Well, serving in Iraq in 2007, there's just something very sobering and kind of life changing when you see policy failures. You see men and women that pay the ultimate sacrifice for this country. I personally carried those body bags off of the battlefield. I took care of those men and women in the back of helicopters and in the trauma bay in Balad, Iraq. And it just changes your outlook to where every little thing has an impact on our national security. I think most Americans discount their impact. And I just want to take the most simple, basic example of sitting down and having dinner with your family at night. Take that time, 3, 4, 5 nights a week, sit down with your children, show them that you care, show them that you're going to take that time to just sit down as a family, talk about their day, ask them some questions, let them vent, talk about their anxieties, talk about what went well that day, what different decisions can we make that would make that day or that outcome go a little bit better. And in doing so, you're teaching them coping skills, you're teaching them accountability, just something that simple. And there's a whole chapter in the book. I title that one "Black Beans and Rice." My wife is Hispanic, and there's a huge Hispanic culture in our household. So just those simple things make a big difference.
Absolutely, absolutely. The importance of family, the importance of communication, the importance of speaking to each other and relating to each other and letting know that you love them, that you care about them, and that helps build that foundation on which great leaders are made, of course. Dr. Josh McConkey is a physician, an emergency room physician. He's also a military leader, and he is a real American hero. And he has written a wonderful book. It is called Be the Weight Behind the Spear. It is a compelling book that combines lessons from the battlefield and the emergency room to inspire a national dialogue on leadership and national security. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Logan, thank you so much for having me. I think it's important to get this message out there, and I thank you very much.
I agree 100%. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for your service. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time, this time until next time on Spotlight.